Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to my channel in episode 6 today of What's in My Box we're going to do. Today we're covering my Topwater hard bait. So I put mine in 2 different boxes. My buzz baits and frogs go in one box, and then all my hard Topwater baits go in the other one. So today we're going to cover the Topwater baits that I use. We'll go over the ones I use the most, my favorites, and kind of what's different about each one and the different categories. So we're going to jump in today, and this is probably my favorite technique. If I could throw this all day, this is what I love throwing Topwater. I'll throw it all day if they're biting it. So hopefully that's something that we can get done, and let's jump in to the box. So as you guys can see here in the box, I got a lot of black and white. I am pretty straightforward with my Topwater colors. I don't vary very much away from just a black and a white, and so I do a bone or a white or a black. And so the first category we're going to go over is actually the poppers, and the first bait we're going to look at is just a old school popper. The first one we're going to look at is it's a P65. I don't have any P70s old school bait, but it's a P65 popper, just a big popper. I utilize the poppers when I don't want the bait to move very quickly out of the location. So I'm throwing it next to a stump or a lay down, and I want it to kind of stay in its location and not move super fast. That's what I really like the popper for. It really, the big deep gurgle that you get from the plop, that's what you're looking for. The second one in here is actually just a smaller version of your traditional popper, just the regular size one. As you can see, this one's really taking a beating. I've got a lot of fish on this one, just in the baby bass color. It's pretty beat up, but it's the same thing, just a smaller version if I'm targeting fish that are eating a smaller bait fish. The third bait the third kind of bait that we're going to look at here, excuse me, is the Rico and the Rio Rico. So the smaller one is the Rio Rico, or sorry, the Rico is the smaller one, and this is a bait that I utilize more when I need a popper that I'm moving quickly. So this is a bait that it has a little walk to it. It's not a consistent back and forth walk like you would see a stick bait. It's more of a subtle, might go left twice and then right once and then right twice and then back center and then back right and then back left. So it's not a back and forth walk, but it does give you a little bit of wobble. And then the larger size is actually a Rio Rico, and you can see on this one it's also been really beaten up. But I've caught a bunch of big fish on this Rio Rico. Probably my favorite Topwater popper is this black, just pure black with the red feather tail. I've caught a lot of big fish on the Rio Rico. They're a little expensive. They're on the higher end of the price range that I generally go for, but they're great baits. So the next one we're going to talk about is kind of in the same category as a popper, but it's a little different. It's kind of a new style bait. Storm has one that came out that's very similar. It's called a cover pop. This is a 6 cents. Kind of same type of deal as a cover pop. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but I'll put all the links to all these baits in the description for you guys, so you can check them out. So the big difference with this one is you can see it has a really big mouth. It's like, it looks huge and looks like, man, this would make a huge plop, move a lot of water. But really, the way this bait is set up is extremely tail heavy. All the weight of this bait's in the tail. So what it does is it sits like that, and when you pop it, it just walks right and doesn't really move, just stays right in place. That's kind of the design. I haven't really caught anything on this bait, but I also haven't really gotten to a time where I think if I get into some flooded bushes bite, which might be coming up here soon, I think this will be a big time player in those flooded bushes. The next category we're going to go with, actually set that bait over there, is just the stick bait, your traditional walking bait, but your big one. Your big full-size walking bait is next. We'll start with the first one is a Strike King Sexy Dog. It's the full-size Sexy Dog. This one, as you can hear, it's a lot of rattles in it. Makes a lot of noise. This is just a chrome sexy shad. That's what you really, with these baits, what you're looking for is the difference in the sound. So the second one is a 6th Sense. I think it's called a Dogma. You can see a lot different sound than the first one. And then even the third bait here is a Vixen, which if you've seen some of my other videos, a Vixen's produced some really large fish catches for me in the past. I won a tournament on Smithville pretty much single-handedly on this one bait, 19 pounds. And this bait's awesome. As you can see, even a little bit different sound. So I mean, they all have different sounds, and that's kind of what you got to experiment with on the waters, figure out which sound. They also walk and spit a little different, but really what you're looking for is the different sounds on which one you want to use. The next baits we're going to go to is the same thing, just another version of the stick baits, but this time we're going to cover. There's 3 different ones here that we're going to go over. Same situation where there's different sounds. So the first one is a Spook, but it's a one knocker. So it's a Heddon Spook one knocker. So you can hear it. Got that one big like tungsten rattle in it. It's got good weight to this bait. Very easy to walk. Makes that sound. Got big beefy hooks on it. And then the next one's just a Super Spook Junior. So your real traditional Spook. It's got a little bit of that same knocking sound, a little different, a little higher pitched than the one knocker. And then the next one is the same one that we just talked about, except this is a sexy dog, but this is in the junior size, so it's in that little smaller size, not as large as the other one, but same thing. You can hear lots of high pitched rattles in that one. The last baits that we're going to go over are the Whopper Plopper. So if you've paid attention to anything in fishing in the last couple years, probably last 3 or 4 years, you know the Whopper Plopper is really taken off as kind of like the go-to. It's a topwater bait that you use all the time. I mean, it's a spring through fall type of bait. You know, you almost always have to have one tied on. And so they actually have 4 sizes now, and that's what we're looking at here, the 4 sizes. The 75 is the newest one, so let's start with this one. This one, I really, really like it. I haven't caught a whole lot of fish on it. It just came out. Just got my hands on a couple of them. But the 75's got a bigger lip than the 90, and it's a bigger body. So this one makes the more traditional plop that you get with the 130 and the 110. You get that plop sound. The 75 does a lot better job than the 90 and get you that plop. So really like the 75. Then you have the 90. So I like the 90 in finesse situations. So when there's dead flat calm water and you don't have a lot of wake or anything like that, the 90 is definitely the bait I go to if they're not willing to get that 75, 110, or 130. The next one's the 110. So the 110's probably the one I throw the most, just because I feel like the 110 you can throw still on mono. You have to have a somewhat beefy rod, but you don't need it to the level of the 130. It's about 3/4 of an ounce, so you can get away with it in some lighter tackle. So the 110 is probably my one that I throw the most often. I've caught the most fish on. It's heavy bait, got big beefy hooks, but it catches the good ones. And then the last one we're going to go over is actually the 130. It's a big bait. It's like 1.25 ounces. This is a bait where you better be throwing it on braid with a big rod. This is one where I'd say you actually need gear tied to this, and so this is, you know, a big bait, but you can catch really, really big fish on it. You can even catch small fish on it. We'll eat it. It's got big beef hooks. This one actually has some rattles in it, and so it's definitely a good bait, and it's one that we're going to be throwing a lot this year. So that kind of covers up my topwaters. I'm a big topwater fan. Like I said at the beginning, the colors that I generally go with, I mean, you look in this box and you really see, you see a white, you know, bone white, black, and then a chrome. That's really all I go for when it comes to my topwaters. I don't get too fancy and get, you know, crazy with the colors. I just kind of stick with really basic. They're not eating white, then they're probably going to eat black. I don't think the color matters that much in that, so that's kind of what I go with there. So that's my box, and so that's episode 6 of What's in My Box. I look forward to continuing through this series and going through what's next. So let's actually take a quick peek. Got it written down here. So the next one's actually going to be my rattle traps and spoon box. We'll go through in the next episode, episode 7. So I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like, Subscribe. Subscribing is probably most important to me right now. If you want to like the video, that's great. If you want to share it, that's great. But if you could just subscribe, doesn't cost anything. It helps me out. And so if you could just subscribe to the videos, that'd be great. If you want to share them, that's great. If you want to like them, that's great. But I really appreciate the support. Like I said, if you ever have any questions about any of the baits, all the links for these are going to be down in the description. If you have any questions about anything related to the box or anything else, just please let me know, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.